Okay guys, so Glitch just dropped this new teaser image, and honestly when I first saw it, I just sat there staring at my screen for like 5 minutes trying to process what I was looking at. Because this isn't just some random promotional material. It rather feels like a genuine glimpse into what's about to happen in episode 7, and I'm not gonna lie, it's making me way more concerned about JAX'S than I already was after everything we saw in episode 6. So basically the image shows JAX'S door in the dorm hall and it's slightly open, like not fully closed but just cracked open enough that there's this thin sliver of light coming through, and the whole thing is pretty dark and honestly kinda heartbreaking when you think about what it might mean. Because we know from episode 1 that JAX'S is the one who has keys to everyone's rooms. He literally showed Pomni that he could just walk into Kaufmo's room whenever he wants. So the fact that his own door is open now feels really significant, like maybe he left it open on purpose, or maybe someone else opened it to check on him, or maybe he's so far gone at this point that he doesn't even care about maintaining those boundaries anymore. And when you connect this image to everything we saw in episode 6, it starts painting this really devastating picture of where JAX'S is mentally right now. Because that panic attack scene at the end of the episode wasn't just a one-time breakdown. That was him completely losing his grip on the persona he's been maintaining throughout this entire series. Like, we watched him spend the whole episode trying to convince Pomni that nothing matters and that he doesn't care about anyone, and then the moment she actually reached out to him and tried to connect, he completely fell apart. But there is this theory that's been building up ever since we got that first trailer footage, and it's that episode 7 might include flashback sequences where we finally get to see Kaufmo and Ribbit when they were still alive and functional members of the circus. And the reason why this theory has so much weight behind it is because some really specific details that people noticed in the trailer, like if you go back and look at the characters' portraits on the door in the dorm hall, the arrangement looks different from how they appear in the current timeline. And this would actually make perfect sense when you think about everything Gooseworks has been saying about JAX'S, and maybe this episode could show us the worst thing he's ever done. Like, we know from Ragata that JAX'S used to have friends in the circus, Kaufmo and Ribbit, but something happened that made him push everyone away, and JAX'S even said that right before they abstracted, Kaufmo and Ribbit became really insufferable to be around. But what if episode 7 is where we finally learn what that actually means through flashback sequences that show us exactly what their relationship was like and what led to their abstractions. But there's a scene in the trailer where we can see what looks like a bucket full of keys, and honestly this has to be in JAX'S room, right? Because we know from episode 1 that he has keys to everyone's rooms, and seeing an actual collection of them like that would make perfect sense if we're finally gonna get to see his personal space. And the reason this matters so much is because JAX'S room has been this complete mystery throughout the entire series. Like, we've seen glimpses of other characters' rooms, but JAX'S has kept his completely hidden from everyone, and maybe there's a reason for that. Like, what if his room is full of stuff that connects back to his past with Kaufmo and Ribbit? Maybe old belongings or mementos that he's been hoarding because he can't let go, even though he spent all this time trying to convince everyone that he doesn't care about anything. Or maybe his room is mostly empty and sterile because he's deliberately tried to erase any evidence of his past relationships, except maybe for the photo we saw, the one with him and Kaufmo and Ribbit on his wall, the one piece of his past that he couldn't bring himself to throw away, even though it probably kills him to look at it every day. And this connects back to that image of his door being open, because if someone is checking on him after what happened in episode 6, or maybe even before the beach adventure starts, they're probably gonna end up seeing inside his room for the first time. But here's the question that's been bothering me, and it's who exactly is gonna be the one to see his room like this? Because based on the trailer footage and the beach episode reveal, we know that everyone is gonna be at the beach, even JAX'S, so maybe we're seeing his room before the adventure starts, like maybe this is the morning after episode 6 and someone comes to get him for the beach adventure and finds his door open. Or maybe it's even possible that JAX'S goes back to his room during the adventure, like maybe something happens that triggers him and he has to leave, and when someone goes looking for him, they find his door open and him inside having another breakdown. Because we already know from the trailer that JAX'S looks absolutely devastated in some of those scenes. And honestly, the most obvious person to check on him would be Pomni, because she was the one who witnessed his breakdown at the end of episode 6. And we know from their fight that she genuinely cares about what happens to him, even after he pushed her away. But there's also this really interesting possibility that keeps coming back to me, and is that maybe it's not Pomni who finds him. Maybe it's someone else entirely, someone we wouldn't expect. And the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that it might actually be Gangle who ends up being involved somehow. And I know that sounds completely insane at first, because Gangle has probably suffered more abuse from JAX'S than anyone else in the circus, but that's exactly what would make it so powerful. And the reason I think Gangle might be involved is because even though we see her at the beach in the trailer, she's not as prominently featured as the other characters in the rest of the scenes, which makes me think that maybe she's got her own separate storyline happening during episode 7. Because if you think about it, that would actually be the perfect setup for a character arc where Gangle finally stands up for herself by choosing to show compassion to someone who doesn't really deserve it. But what if the reason JAX'S door is open isn't just because someone came to check on him, but because he's in such a bad state that he's either forgotten to close it or genuinely doesn't care anymore about maintaining those boundaries? Because we know from episode 6 that JAX'S is way closer to abstracting than any of us realized. That panic attack scene wasn't just him being upset, that looked like the beginning of a complete mental breakdown. And this is where the possibility of flashback sequences becomes so important, because maybe the structure of episode 7 is that we're cutting between the present day beach adventure, Pomni's and Ragata's side quest, and then where JAX'S is clearly not okay, and flashbacks to his past with Kaufmo and Ribbit that explain exactly how he ended up in this state. Like maybe we could see younger JAX'S when he was still capable of forming genuine connections with people, and then we watch as those relationships slowly deteriorate and fall apart, culminating in the abstractions of his friends and his complete psychological collapse. But there is also this other really interesting theory about the timing of when we see this open door, and is that maybe the door is from after the beach adventure. Like maybe JAX'S comes back from whatever happened at the beach and he finds his door open when he never would have left it like that. And when he enters his room, maybe that's the trigger that sends him into the flashbacks. Like the open door is this visual representation of his defenses being broken down, and stepping through it literally transports him back to those memories of Kaufmo and Ribbit that he's been trying so hard to suppress. But there's also this other possibility, and is that maybe the open door represents a choice. Like maybe JAX'S left his door open because on some level he wants someone to find him. He wants someone to see what he's been hiding and help him deal with it, even though he spent all this time pushing people away. Because think about what happened at the end of episode 6 when Glitch posted that image of JAX'S throwing that picture of him and Pomni in the trash. That wasn't him being cruel just for the sake of it. That was him desperately trying to protect her from getting too close to him, because he genuinely believes that he's dangerous to be around. And maybe leaving his door open is his way of reaching out without actually having to ask for help. Because someone like JAX'S, who's built his entire identity around being independent, would never be able to directly admit that he's struggling, but maybe he can leave subtle signs and hope that someone cares enough to notice. But here's the thing that really gets me about all of this, and it's how the image of JAX'S open door connects to everything we know about his character and his relationship with boundaries. Because think about how much emphasis the show has put on JAX'S having keys to everyone's rooms, how he can just walk into people's private spaces whenever he wants. Like having those keys gives him power and control. It lets him violate other people's boundaries while maintaining strict boundaries around his own space and his own emotions. But now his door is open, and whether that's by choice or because someone else opened it, it represents this complete breakdown of the walls he's built around himself. And maybe that's what episode 7 is really gonna be about. Watching JAX'S finally lose the ability to maintain those protective barriers and being forced to confront everything he's been keeping locked away. So yeah, episode 7 is definitely gonna reveal something that's gonna change everything about how we understand his character. Whether we're getting flashback sequences showing his past with Kaufmo and Ribbit, or just discovering what's inside his room through someone checking on him, this image feels like the visual representation of JAX'S finally being unable to keep his walls up anymore. But let me know what you think about this new teaser image and what it means for episode 7. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.